What's up, Vetters? Patrick here with Vetted. Today, we are talking about this.
I will stand firm in that I said in January that there was something coming, that people were going to try to convince the public at large that there was a spacecraft slowly moving to Earth. Intelligence agents from multiple agencies, durationally, over years, would call me and slowly edge at me with this theory and this idea to try to get me to say it. And it felt so manipulative, I had to call it out.
All right, Vetters, please hit that like button. That really helps out the videos. And of course, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Y'all, I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. All right, so let's break this down a little bit. Essentially, the story is this. Jeremy Corbell, this past January, in 2025, basically stated in his Tubi show, which I highly recommend checking it out. I'll put a link in the description. He came out and said that, people were going to try to sell us a lie, that an alien mothership was headed for Earth, and even gave a date, 2027.
Your government now wants you to know one truth, and that truth is that UFOs are real. They've already done told you. Sometimes when you want somebody to know a truth, it's so you can set them up to believe a lie, and that's coming. I have zero doubt that lie is coming.
What is the lie?
Specifically, you want me to say it right now, for real? Real? On camera? To be put in the show?
Yes.
Okay. Problem with that. If we tell the lie before it's told, they can adapt. That wouldn't be wise. I'll tell you privately, but I would really think about if you want to put this in your show. For real. That's a real thing, I'm telling you. So will you think about it before putting it in your show?
Absolutely.
Okay. So UFOs are real, and they've been here a long time, and that's the truth. But the lie is coming. All indications, like all of them, is that that lie is going to be that there is a craft slowly making its way to us here on Earth. And that is the lie they're going to want you to believe. It's nuanced, how they explain that, the nature of that threat. But that 100% is the lie you are going to be told. You even got a date. People have been whispering a date for a long time now. I know where that lie comes from. I know specifically what document from the 70s initiated the idea of that lie. A classified document. That is the lie you will be told. You're going to be told that there is a craft on its way to Earth. That's the lie. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I sent you 2 texts today with a year. Not from me. Nope. I'm not going to propagate that lie. Not going to be part of it. Not going to say it to the camera. Everybody knows. Just start paying attention. And they'll change the date, especially if they see this. Things will change. Because maybe I'm trustworthy. Maybe I'm worthy of your trust. Maybe I've told you the truth the whole way through it. Now you can verify it. If that's the case, then I'm fucking dangerous. You've been told the truth about UFOs for a long time now. It's been pretty orchestrated. It's been pretty clear. And it's using people that are telling the truth and want to tell the truth. Ultimately, they want you to know something. They want you to know UFOs are real. Thank God we're finally there. We're all there now. They want you to know the truth. But why they want you to know that truth now? Hope I'm wrong, but it's terrifying. Think about it. Maybe it's good to get ahead of it. call it out now before they do it. I'll be called crazy. That's okay.
Ever since this 3-eye atlas, comment has been coming, people have been saying that's a mothership. Well, one person in particular, Harvard professor, Dr. Avi Loeb, who I've interviewed a couple of times. But Jeremy has since decided to make a comment about the comet, and if it's connected, is a part of the same thing, right? Because he said the date could get changed if he revealed it, right? So that's what we're going to discuss in today's video, because honestly, what Jeremy has to say, I 100% stand by. And if I'm being honest, Jeremy, if you're watching, thank you for saying what you said in this video, and thank you for what you said in January in your Tubi show, because I agree. This is careless and kind of crazy. And Jeremy reveals that he was sort of, pressured to come out and say this by people from the intelligence community, that there was something headed this way. And well, if you've been paying attention to the UFO community, there are a few UFO personalities out there who have been saying something is coming, and I'm building a bunker, and rhymes with schmelazando, you know what I mean? And I can't talk about it, This is exactly what Jeremy is talking about.
Let's just talk about it. This brings me to the Atlas thing. Let's, if it's okay, let's jump into that.
Sure.
Everybody's asking what my opinion is on the 3-eye Atlas, object coming to Earth. Now, I'm not an astronomer. I'm not a scientist, but why they're asking me is because I made a statement back in January saying that, hey, there's a lie coming. And of course, it was part of a show, and it was just but if you watch the whole show, you kind of understand what's going on. And I've made a ton of statements about why I would say something like that. I'm not hiding and just saying it. I've explained to people why multiple times, but people are asking about that. Now, I don't know anything about that particular comment. I read the same stuff as everybody else. The trend I'm realizing, our friend in the disclosure movement, Avi Loeb, he talks about these unique characteristics, and he's not wrong about that, but it is a consensus of one. I don't see a bunch of other astrophysicists and people working on this stuff really echoing that same sentiment. I do love his open-mindedness, and he knows far better than me, and he's investigating the unexplained, not explaining the uninvestigated. So I've got a lot of happiness and joy for the way that he's looking at this problem set. But I will stand firm in that I said in January, and I actually said it earlier, but it was, I think it was played in January, that there was something coming, that people were going to try to convince the public at large that there was a spacecraft slowly moving to Earth. And that didn't come out of thin air. That wasn't just something I made up before I sat down. That came from years of people trying to impose upon me something to use my mouth, that there was this threat coming, that there's a 1970s document that I believe to be classified for sure. And, I don't have the ability to get that out to people, but it postulated this. So there were so many warning signs that this was going to happen. I finally said the quiet part out loud. Intelligence agents from multiple agencies durationally over years would call me and slowly edge at me with this theory and this idea to try to get me to say it. And it felt so manipulative, I had to call it out. So that is specifically why I said it, because I felt that pressure over time. I know you've been told, oh, there are these hints of big things coming. Well, if it is, fucking say it. If it is, then you have a duty to say it. But no one's standing up and raising their hand. So I do think it's absolute nonsense. I think that you're going to see, a comet that's, maybe unique by material, pass by the Earth, and life goes on. I'm pretty high confidence that that's what's going to happen. But again, I don't know. I'm not an astronomer or anything. I just know what intelligence agencies have tried to push on me.
A lot of people have jumped to a conclusion. Aha, Jeremy was talking about this one. How did he know? And, I was wondering that myself, since you hadn't shared it with me.
But you've heard it. You've heard it, George.
Yeah, of course.
2027 to 2036. Ooh, a big thing is coming. Okay, what is it then? How'd you find out about it?
I've been around long enough to remember Hale Bopp. Hale Bopp. Art Bell, a lot of people saying, oh, there's something following it, a big spaceship, end of the world coming. And then the crazy cult people in Southern California all drank the Kool-Aid and died, killed themselves so they could meet up with it. Bad stuff can happen when you do that kind of crazy prognostication. And I'll tell you, I saw this last night on X. Somebody had a picture of Avi Loeb, and they're quoting him as saying, if you're going to take a vacation, you better do it before October 29th, because this is it. And you know what? I don't know that Dr. Loeb said anything even remotely close to that.
Oh, he did.
Take your vacation before October 29th.
Yeah, I saw the video clip. But again, it's all about context, right? So when you're doing an interview and you're talking with people, he was probably kind of making a joke. He wasn't doing a doomsday thing, but it becomes like, biblical scripture. Everybody's got it. Look, Avi Loeb is fighting to investigate the unexplained, not to explain the uninvestigated. That is awesome, but it's the media and social media doing it to itself. I just, I don't know, man.
Well, I just know that I'm not going to be able to take a vacation before October 29th because slave driver Jeremy keeps me tethered to this desk here for weaponized.
That's
so
right.
I'm out of luck.
So again, I really appreciate George and Jeremy and what they're saying here. I mean that. I don't know how much I can repeat that. I don't always agree with them on things. They don't always agree with me. But on this, I 1,000% agree with them. And I applaud Jeremy for coming out and saying this. I love Jeremy and George and what they do and what they bring to the community. I know they get a lot of hate. So do I. But I honestly appreciate what they do. And this is another thing that I appreciate. Especially Jeremy just being honest with us and coming out and saying this, kind of blowing the whistle on it. Like, hey, they're going to try to tell you this. Don't believe it. Thank you. Because as George brought out, there have been instances where people have been told things like this before. And they did drink the Kool-Aid and literally take their own lives to try to meet up with the spaceship. And that's the last thing we want to happen here with something like this, right? It's just kind of insanity, right? If you think about it. It's disturbing, if I'm being honest. It's disturbing. It's dangerous. It just doesn't make any sense. Now, what Dr. Avi Loeb is doing might be a little bit different in the sense that he's just trying to be open and curious about this thing. And it is true that he's kind of the only one saying this, and he's not saying it definitively. He definitely always leaves open interpretation and whatnot, but he really does try to push that this could be this thing. This is a tough balance. It's a high wire act here, right? Because at the same time, we want to be skeptical, but, curious and open-minded. And so how far do you go with things like this, right? But again, Avi isn't saying definitively, and I agree with Jeremy when he said that, when he brought up, hey, you need to take a vacation before, October 29th. I do think he said that in jest. I mean, and it's true. It's exactly what he said. But, watch the clip and tell me what you think. Is that what he's saying? I think he is kind of saying it as a joke.
It will pass closest to the sun on October 29th, 2025. I got a text message the other day from someone who said that he is trading options on the volatility of the market with an expiration date of October 29th in order to make money. And I immediately thought that I don't know if there will be meaning to money if this object turns out to be technological after October 29th. If you want to take a vacation, take it before that date, because who knows what will happen.
But if you look at Blossom's face there, she's like, well, what? But again, I do think that was kind of said in jest, not necessarily, genuine concern. But at the same time, you never know, right? That's kind of his point. But I don't know. It is kind of interesting. And 3i Atlas has done some interesting things that people have been interested in. But we also have to remember this is the only third interstellar object we've ever observed. So we don't really have a lot of previous data to go off of. So any movement or this or that, it's like, oh, we've never seen that before. Therefore, well, there's a lot we've never seen before. And there's a lot we don't know about interstellar objects coming in. So the more we learn, the less those gaps get filled with God, right? Essentially, the God of gaps theory, right? It's like we fill the gaps we don't know with these extraordinary, conclusions, right? And I think, again, at the same time, it is worth sort of exploring and thinking about, but should we be building bunkers and, taking our vacations? No, there's nothing that would, otherwise implicate that. But with that said, this kind of crazy news just came out about 3i Atlas, and it basically, there's more information. I'll put links in the description, but basically we have, alerted our planetary defense system, and we're going to be watching this thing for a few months. Now, they are saying that this is sort of a test, but I mean, is it? I guess. I don't know. I don't know enough about this stuff, right?
Yesterday, the International Asteroid Warning organization network decided to have a campaign starting on November 27th until January 27th, where it will coordinate using all the assets we have on Earth and in space to get as much data as possible about this mysterious object. And, that would be a great blessing, irrespective of whether it's natural or technological. But if it happens to do a maneuver when it comes close to the sun, the way spacecraft do, using gravitational assist from the sun, that would definitely affect the markets, the financial markets, and politics on Earth.
Why? Because everybody will suddenly feel like, uh-oh, we've just been invaded? I mean, because if it does a maneuver around the sun, that would show it's not a natural object, right?
Yes, it will be a technological signature, but it could be also a mothership that releases mini probes that maneuver.
But look, let's get back to this Jeremy Corbell being, pressured by the intelligence community to push this date, right? I made a video about this back in January, and I'm going to put a link in the description. You should check it out, because I actually did a little bit of research, trying to find out who has been talking about this mothership coming in 2027 and all this stuff. And I found one guy in particular. He's a former CIA officer, and his name is John Ramirez. So take a look at this clip from my video from January. I'll put a link in the description so you can watch the whole thing. But, these rumors kind of started with him.
There was like a mass landing. Would we just simply prepare for a conflict, or would we actually initiate something? That's right. A scary thing.
Well, I think the dialogue we're having now in this country, even with the recent legislation that passed through the legislature and is on its way up to the president's desk, even with that, we're kind of preparing the U.S. population, at least, and by extension, the world population, into that reality that there is a presence here. And that we need to explain this presence, because if they show up and we continue to do what we did before in previous decades, and they show up, there will be mass panic. But if you understand that these are real, and we have 5 years from 2022, or maybe now 4 years, if they come in 2027, for the U.S. government to prepare the people about what is up there. And in many ways, I think the word got out within the government that they're showing up in 2027, and we better be prepared. And if not, there's going to be a lot of explaining to do. And so I think that dialogue has happened within inside the government, in certain areas inside the government, that we need to prepare. And that's why in 2017, that set a clock of 10 years. And why Lou Elizondo earlier in this year said, just find a hobby for 5 years. And, it'll all be out in 5 years. And he said that this year. So that was 2027. Huh. And I would say I've heard 2027 in a kind of an official capacity that I can't reveal. So I think I would say that people in the government are aware of something happening, and that there's limited time, a few more years to prepare the people. And that's what's ramping up. This acceleration from the previous 7 decades of not even acknowledging it to now we are acknowledging it at a faster and faster pace.
So there's the culprit, right? CIA, former CIA, retired. Do you ever really retire from the CIA? Right? John Ramirez spreading this exact rumor that Jeremy Corbell is talking about and warning us about. And I agree with Jeremy, right? They admit a lie or admit a truth to then push a lie, right? Now, who is John Ramirez? How about a little more background on exactly who he is? Since 2021, John Ramirez, who spent 25 years in the CIA, has been providing truthful insights into the UAPs that he learned in his career. He is a highly intelligent individual who has an immense amount of knowledge and experience regarding the U.S. intelligence apparatus and the UAP subject. He has made an impressive social media presence after he revealed many UAP-related mysteries that had never been discussed in public by any government official. CIA retired John Ramirez, who specialized in ballistic missile defense systems, worked for the CIA from 1984 to 2009, holding positions in the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the Directorate of Science and Technology, and the Directorate of Intelligence. He attained GS-15 grade, which indicates that he worked for the agency in a relatively senior capacity.
Opportunity for the winner of the November 4th, 2024 presidential election, the president-elect has an opportunity to finally be the disclosure president before that magic year, 2027, which experiencers and channelers have talked about. We always hear about 26 or 27, those years.
Right, 2027.
And
yeah.
I would say this, the only time that I heard from CIA that they were concerned about something I said was with, I think it was an interview where I mentioned something about the government knows about 2027.
I think it was Project Unity. There was another interview you did with him, Jay from Project Unity.
No, this was more recent. This happened this year.
Oh my gosh. Maybe. I'm not, I don't know if it was that one or not. I don't remember which other one you mentioned that.
Well,
but
short story is that CIA did not like me mentioning 2027.
Really? Oh man.
So again, I'll put a link in the description to that full video. Go check it out. And he's saying experiencers are saying it, and Jeremy's saying that he was pressured by the intelligence community, probably many people over the course of time, right? So, it's just wild. Just we gotta keep our heads on a swivel out here, y'all, because we got alien motherships coming at any time. But at the end of the day, I agree with what Jeremy said. If you believe that, then come out and say it, right? You have a duty to come out and say it, not build a secret bunker and, say, I can't talk about it, but kind of talk about it, right? It's reckless. It's reckless, and it's playing with people's emotions. It's playing with people's desire for the truth and desire for this phenomena to be as real as the hand in front of you, right? And people have a responsibility when they're in a leadership position, whether or not they've been voted into that leadership position, by coming out and sort of, you sort of make yourself a leader. You do have a responsibility, right? To not gaslight. Don't gaslight us, all right? If something's coming, say it and show the proof. Where'd you hear that? Right? Because dancing around it works for some people, but not for most. One other thing about maybe where this rumor have started, I brought up John Ramirez, but, there might be someone else as well. You see, something hit me while I was watching Jeremy's To Be special, right? And he's talking about this object coming and this lie they're going to sell us. And he said this one phrase that really stuck with me for some reason that I'll explain in a second. He said, how does he know this, right? He's confident this is happening. And he says, I have zero doubt.
I have zero doubt.
And that phrase stuck with me because there's someone else in the UFO community who has used almost that exact same phrase. And normally that wouldn't be anything, but I've learned not to ignore coincidences in this field because, you know, this someone is Colonel Carl Nell, who coincidentally they talk about in the Weaponized episode.
And that really has been tremendous progress. I guess Carl Nell, I don't know him. I've never talked to him. I know about him. I guess he was disappointed with the hearings. He felt like the last hearing was just repeating the same stuff. And, you know, we were there, Jeremy. I thought it was a really powerful presentation, great testimony. An active duty Navy guy was on the stand there testifying to Congress. Amazing. An actual whistleblower who's been through the whole process was there telling the stories. And all of those witnesses brought something to the table. I don't think it's repetitive.
But it's something that Carl Nell said at a SALT conference in 2024, which I just recently covered, when he's asked about NHI and if he, you know, how confident is he that NHI is on Earth, he says, 0 doubt.
I'm wondering, and I'm curious, how confident are you that that is true?
There's 0 doubt.
Just always stuck with me. Now, normally you think, why does that matter, Patrick? Well, I'll tell you why it matters. Because Pavel from Psychoactivo, about 5 months ago, made a video saying that Colonel Carl Nell was the one behind the scenes telling Congress and members of Congress, staffers, whatever, that there was this big object coming, this mothership, this exact thing that Jeremy Corbell is talking about.
At this point, this quote is well known, and that's the name that I kept hearing. That's the person who was going on in Congress, going on unclassified settings, talking to either Congress staffers or Congress members, because right now, probably the best possible choices, if these were indeed Congress members, would be either Congresswoman Luna, Congressman Eric Burleson, or Congressman Tim Burchett. Those are the names that kept popping up too. And I wouldn't be doing this video if I hadn't confirmation from various sources saying the same name. It was him, according to that. He's the one who has been telling these people that something is coming. It's very vague.
Was this Jeremy Corbell's way of sort of a secret message to Colonel Carl Nell, like, hey, buddy, talking about you, right? Without actually calling him out? I don't know. Maybe I'm connecting dots that aren't there. And the 0 doubt thing wouldn't really be a coincidence had not Pavel not come out with that video stating that he's the one spreading this message. And then Jeremy says it that way in his video too, right? So I just think there's some connection there. And in a way, I think maybe Jeremy's calling out Colonel Carl Nell for this. All right, let me know what you think down in the comments.
There's 0 doubt.
I have 0 doubt.
So again, keep your head on a swivel, y'all. Links in the description. Thank you again to Jeremy and George for sticking up for the community and saying this and being honest about this. I actually really appreciate that. We'll see you on the next one, betters. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.
Hey, Patrick. My name's Michael. In 1996, Thanksgiving evening in Torrance, California, I was at my grandparents' house. A bunch of family was in the front yard, and I thought it was the Goodyear blimp, because the Goodyear blimp would fly around and have these displays on them around the South Bay area. And I noticed it was a giant V, like just a V with 2 lights on each wing and 1 at the tip. And it flew super slow over the house, didn't make a sound. The next door neighbors, the Marshes, came out and asked us if we saw it. The Gobies across the street, their 15 kids or however many they had, they all saw it. And it just cruised real slowly towards Long Beach and took off. And then about 6 months later is when the Phoenix Lights thing started. And I was walking through the living room. My grandfather was watching the news and they showed it. And I said, that's what flew over the house on Thanksgiving. And I have just never heard anything about it. There had to have been people that had seen this thing. So I'm just curious if anyone else saw it in 1996. The other weird thing is I completely forgot about the incident up until about 2 years ago when my brother mentioned it. It just like was completely checked out of my brain. And then when my brother brought it up, it was like somebody inserted that memory back, and I remembered the whole thing. And my mom, the same thing. She remembers it. Everybody remembers it. I just have never heard anything on it. So just curious.